It's going. All right. Good morning. After a long time, we are here. This is the live streaming channel from AUAA-USA, Annamalai University Alumni Association. Good morning. All right. Good morning. After a long time, we are here. After a long time, we are streaming channel from AUAA. Okay. So we got some echo. So Annamalai University Alumni Association USA. We have been off for a few months. Now we are back with the great new, officers and directors. Amazing job. Thank you, everyone. And there are a lot more people who can come and help. We would, just grow and do great things as community service as well. And then also we will meet. So all you need to do is go to auaa-usa.org. Join as a member. It's only about $100 for lifetime. And then just participate. Whatever we learned, whatever we got or gained from studying at Annamalai University, we should be able to give back to some of the students there. And then also, hey, there's other part where we can just connect each other and then have some fun. Last year, we had a couple of places where we met alumni, San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles area, and then Atlanta, DC, and Dallas. This year, we are also thinking that we should have a convention sometime in Dallas as well, apart from having local events. So please do join us. The best part is, last year also we did donate. This year we also donated for about 9 students, their hostel fees and the tuition fees, which came from donations from the alumni in the US. Thank you, everyone. Let's keep continuing. So in the webpage soon, we will add for different projects. It could be $25, it could be $50. Just start with it, and then people have donated much, larger amounts. Ultimately, it goes to a good cause where we select the candidates who are financially, very struggling. They lost their parents in COVID and all that, so they don't have money to study. So that's where, we try to help all kinds of people there. So let's do that. And then with that digital series talk, today you must have seen that it's going to be on cybersecurity. So first, I would like to welcome Priya from 1997 E&I. Hi, Priya.
Hi,
Good morning. So how's the day for you today?
it is very good.
Awesome. So I'm sure you're excited to bring
I
someone
am.
forward.
I am. Thank you.
So let's see, what are we bringing today?
Um, as you might have all seen in the advertisements, we are going to have a very special guest today with us who is well versed with cybersecurity, which is the next thing along with the AI. As AI is booming, and machine is going to take over, we are all worried about security. So cyber security expert, Mr. Karthik Swarnam, we call him Karthik, or I might call him Karthik Annan here and there. So is the chief security and trust officer with Armor Corps. But he has also been working at various leadership positions across different Fortune 50 companies. You take Kroger, which is a retail, or say AT&T, which is telecom, or TransUnion Bank, or DirecTV, which is an entertainment media. Across the domain here where he was there, and he was also a consultant from Accenture. So he has a wide experience in the security field, and he is an Annamalai alumni. He is from ENI, and he is from 1993 batch. So I'm
Yeah.
very, very excited to talk to him, and also uh, through me get all your questions, all your viewpoints heard from him and his experiences as well.
Excellent. So we'll, introduce and then let him speak. We'll interact and then also have uh, touch into subjects as to, what the cybersecurity, how it evolved and, evolution of the whole technology or the space. And then also we will have opportunities and threats. What is there, right?
Definitely.
And while all along, people, those who are watching, you should be able to type your questions, but there's going to be a Q&A at the end. Looks like he has been the CISO, which means the, Chief Information Security Officer, not just an easy position, but he's been doing that for several years. So this is the best, person that we can have to ask anything and everything about security. Let's welcome Karthik. Good morning, Karthik.
Good morning, LL. Vanakkam, Kale Vanakkam. I'm really humbled and happy to be here with you all. I mean, Muthu and Priya as well. So thank you for having me on your show today.
Oh, I know you have absolutely zero time looking at all the security threats and opportunities throughout the world. Thank you so much for making this time. And it's definitely an honor for us to bring you in and then share your wealth and knowledge about, cybersecurity.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so with no ado, let's start the process. I will stay away once in a while. I'll come and ask a few questions, or maybe if I have any, just because I have the privilege of being in the call. But otherwise, Priya, take it over.
Yeah, I mean, make it more interactive, and we know you are the star or celebrity for an alumni.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, go on.
I'm equally excited, and thank you for this opportunity as well. And we welcome you from Annamalai University, Anna. Mm, we wanted to actually understand what is this CSTO, Chief Security and Trust Officer, and what is Armor Core to start with. And then the session will go like to know about your early days and your anomaly days, and we'll continue that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be called as chief security officers. It kind of evolved into chief information security officers, Then it became, then it kind of toggled between chief security and chief information security, depending upon what your scope have been, right? My roles have been both CSO and chief information security officer. The difference is sometimes you would have physical security responsibilities, KNR, kidnap and ransom, executive protection, right? Fraud prevention, privacy. When you start to combine all of that stuff, then you go back to a chief security officer, right? So what we have done now is CISTO. Along the way, in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, people are kind of starting to lose trust, right? That's why companies have started to incorporate chief trust officer. It's not only about protecting, but also communicating what you protect. So to earn the trust of your customers, earn the trust of your citizens. So that is basically chief security and trust officer, right? So what do you not only do to protect, but how do you communicate and how do you elaborate and how do you build trust, right? It's an oxymoron, right? Trust and security. Do you trust but verify is what we always say, don't trust, right? But we're getting back to the pendulum is swinging the other way, right? But so that's kind of where chief security and trust officer. Armor Code is an early stage cybersecurity startup company. As you said, you know what, I spent about a dozen years in Accenture running a security practice at Accenture, Anderson Consulting, Accenture Consulting. So I kind of thought that I had that flavor. One of my friend told me it's easy to be a consultant, hard to be an operator. I told them that is not the case. A lot of consultants on the call. You wake up, you do a lot of work. But then the situation with security is a breach may happen. When the breach happens, who is on the chair? And that person is going to go look for a job, and that's going to be difficult, right? So he said, as a consultant, you come in before, help me strategize. So you come in after to clean up. You're never there when stuff happens, right? So I said, okay, that's a good challenge. So I kind of decided to move away from consulting and went into about 15 years of, being on the operator role.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. So I think at this phase of life, I've kind of turned, yes, it is a startup, yes, it is for profit, but that kind of said at this stage in life, I kind of said, okay, I need to give back to the community, right? So if you work for a very large company, it's just fantastic, but you're protecting one company at a time. So I think moving over we can create capabilities and solutions that could benefit, multiple companies and government agencies and so on and so forth, right? So that's henceforth, Armor Core. So we are a platform security play.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And, we can keep talking a lot more about this and maybe your experiences as we move along. We'll go back to your early days. How did you start? Where are you from?
So
And
I mean, most of my early days were in Chennai. So I grew up in Chennai, did my high schooling in Chennai, and then ended up in this best privileged institution. One of the privileged individuals to go to this institution, right, Annamalai University, where I think I would say all my farming days were there, right. My my personality is I'm more of a MacGyver, right? MacGyver is somebody that kind of takes something and tries to figure things out, right? So that's curiosity mindset, so on and so forth, right? So that kind of drove me into, something of this nature, right? Cybersecurity, right? So I grew up in Chennai, went to school, obviously not school, undergraduate in Annamalai University. Right now, live outside Chicago, right? That's who I am. Yeah.
so you knew right when you were in Chennai that you're going to go to Annamalai, or how did all Annamalai story came up?
I mean, I definitely wanted to be in something to do with engineering,
Mm,
right?
okay.
And I was debating whether I mean, I ended up in the US after all, but I was initially thinking maybe I'll come for undergraduate schooling in the US, but then I decided not to. And if it wasn't that, my choice was Anomaly, right? So I mean, what other better school to go to than Anomaly, right? So.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Annamalai then. Annamalai, what do you think of the top 10 that comes to your mind when I say Annamalai?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Maybe I will share a small slide deck and I will go through that if that's okay, right?
Oh,
So,
great. Okay.
all right, let's do that. It's a lot of memories, right? When this thing started to come up, so I kind of said, I need to go do this, right?
Definitely. Station has to be there, right?
So
Amazing.
the life all started with Chidambaram, right? Coming from Chennai, you take the Sengote passenger, land in Chidambaram. That is day one. I will talk about where do you, when do you, how do you come and how do you get shaped and how do you move on, right? So Chidambaram station, NVLR, I don't know, depending upon the time frame of the listeners, right? Some people might know, some people might not know, right? This is where everything happens, right? So to start to make a demand as a student union or to hang out and have a good time or to even get some good food, right? So then I think it will be second would be probably hotels Sharadaram.
Good.
Um, a lot of people go to make STD, right? I don't want to get your imaginations wild. It's a standard trunk dialing. Back in the day, we didn't have any mobile phones. So you have to go to this hotel to make a phone call at nighttime or get merry as well. You could do that. Theaters, Lena, Vadaganathan, almost like I think I spent about 4 days in a week in a movie theater. And the last
Wow.
3 days I used to come back to Chennai. So pretty pretty much it's a way to, away from your environments, right? Paris Corner, not the one in France. Um, with the hopes of meeting somebody, it's a nice hangout place, right? Of course, it's an interesting place, IDC. Indefinitely closed. Year one, get full excitement, go to the college, and all you need to find out was the college is closed, pack up your bags, take your stuff out of the hostel, and go home, right? Indefinitely closed. I kept asking, what does indefinite mean? Nobody would. Indefinite means it's eternity. I'm never going to get back to the engineering college. Is my stuff has come to a dead end? A lot of questions as like a 17, 18-year-old, right? But I guess indefinitely it does have a, finite end to it, right? So that was interesting. Hostels. Um, Crazy, right? I actually stayed in a place called New Block. I don't know
Mm.
what new about that block was when I was there in like, 92, 91, I think, right? I don't know, that's the time frame I got into it. If this teaches you a lot of things, I even talk to my kids about it, right? If you can live here, you can live anywhere, right? I mean, all in the positive tone, right? I'm not trying to be, sarcastic, but, when they say, built tough, I mean, this is where you get built tough. right? So hostels were one of them. How can you ignore, I mean, temple, right? You need the extra help if you need to graduate, right? So no, I mean, I'm sure everybody can agree to that. So Natarajar temple, great peaceful place, cool place, lots of nice windy place. You pray for God, you can get the help that you need to get to where you need to, right? College trips, I know everybody probably had it in their second year, third year, fourth year, right? Which is fantastic, which is where you kind of build memories and a clear bond, right? I don't think so. I built a lot of bond with my teaching faculty until I went on these college trips, when you get to know that how human they are as well, right? Some of them will, break out and have a nice, chit chat with you on these trips, right? And the friends, right? Number two on my top 10 list is the friends, right? If you don't have friends, you're not there, right? So and you stay connected. I know that Annamalai University Alumni Association absolutely, kind of connects all of us together. So we have done 15-year, 20-year, 25-year, and 30-year reunions, and several of them I had the opportunity to help organize with others, which is fantastic. It's friends for life. I joke around sometimes with my own friends, that these are the people that I've known for more longer than some of the others have, right? So it's kind of interesting, right? And last but not the least, it's the Department of Electronics and Instrumentation Engineering and the faculty and the education that I got, right? To be honest, this is an institution that told me how to think, and teaching me how to think is the key thing that I got. I'm not sure if anybody were to ask me if I know anything about digital signal processing and field theory. Absolutely, I have zero memories of that. But this teaches you how to think, how to go figure out things, how to survive in the wild world out there, right? So that is my number one memory from Annamalai University. Thanks for
Great.
giving me the opportunity to share, because this is, I would call it as very humbling experience, right? So it's just amazing. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
I am overwhelmed, Anna. In the 10 points, you covered the whole of Annamalai and the whole of Chidambaram, the total experience as such, right?
And not only that, it's just brought memories for all of us.
True.
IDC, something very interesting. Yeah.
Was it in your first year when you joined only you had IDC?
Yeah, I think it's in 2 months. I think the contributing factors would be my seniors. I think we were just first year students.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. We had it on the day one, Anna, but it was
Oh,
only for 10 days. So it is not a long IDC.
right.
So, as you said, Muthunan, so much of memories. Thank you so much, Karthik.
That's
Amazing,
true.
amazing
That's true.
Annamalai. Walkthrough of Annamalai in front of our eyes. And those slides, amazing. You could get all the pictures and things like that. I spotted few people. Like
Thanks,
Vidya,
thanks,
I
for,
saw in
thanks,
one of the
for,
pictures.
thanks for images and Google and friends, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta be. If you can't do it, you need to have resources to be able to do it. That's all that matters, right? So.
It's
But no
nice to
effort.
see that pictures, as you said, Priya. I knew quite a few of them in that picture, so that's really good to see.
Yeah.
That's
And then the
amazing.
best thing that you said, I liked it, is, this is the great department that taught me everything, but I have no clue what they taught. Same, it applies for everyone.
I
What I meant is,
I
even
think
though right?
yeah, I think you slightly paraphrased it. I cannot remember or recollect. I think they taught me well,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
did not. Yeah, yeah,
And I'm of that guy. I did mechanical engineering, but then, I'm completely off of mechanical engineering right from the
absolutely.
first year onwards.
It's
So
survival skills, right? Go do what it
survival
matters. Go
skills.
do what it needs. What is the call of the hour, right? The call of the hour is important. That if everybody can,
That's true.
listen to it, you know.
Amazing though. Yeah, continue. Please continue.
That's great. I mean, we can keep talking about Annamalai for hours together and cherish about those memories and the fun things we had around there.
Right.
Uh, From Annamalai, I mean, I'm so curious to know from E&I, right? Uh, how did you move to this security world? Where all you had been through to reach here, or how did it even evolve?
Yeah. So, so after Annamalai, I came to the US for graduate school. I ended up in Detroit, a tough city again, from one tough spot to another tough spot, right? Teaches you to build tough, right? So Motor City, fantastic, it's Wayne State University. That's kind of where I ended up. I ended up doing electrical engineering as my graduate degree, right? Which was fantastic. Actually, my thesis was in artificial intelligence in 1995. I think we talk about a lot of AI today, 30 years later, but it wasn't that easy to, it was great. I mean, and National Science Foundation, DoD, these guys fund your college education, and then and you work on this stuff. It wasn't very commercial, right? As you know, I think to be in cybersecurity, it's just a mindset more than the skill set. Yeah, when I say what I mean by mindset is, can you think of what can go wrong and will it go wrong, right? Normally a lot of people are wired to test for success. Security guys are test for failure, right? How can I break? How can I, what happens when I do this thing, right? And like, can I push this thing, right? So I think I'm off that mindset. So coming out of college, I think I ended up in network and infrastructure. We didn't have a security discipline back then. There were people doing security, right? So it was my introduction into security. So right out of college, that's all I kind of did, right? Never a hands-on developer, never a programmer. So it's difficult to be in the technology space if you don't know how to code. And so security is an alternative to not able to code, although it has changed quite a bit. Now everything is
Right.
software and you better need to know how to do it. But so that's kind of how my introduction into security, right? So it
So
was
you had artificial intelligence as part of your engineering itself. You did it as a
It was a the-
specialization.
it was a thesis work in my master's program. So it wasn't coursework necessarily, but it was a thesis program. But guess what? I think there's always value in anything and everything that you do, right? It paid part of it. It helped supplement my graduate school expenses. Maybe not have gotten me a job at the time. So I think how we can look back and look at what value we can generate out of it, right? So, but then into security and the rest we are here chatting. So
When you repeat the word security, I'm reminded of what happened in my life. My friend, went to masters, and my friend wrote a letter to me saying that she's going to join RSN Chips. I thought
okay.
after E&I, she's joining a chips company, and I was so upset with her, saying that don't do this. You can do better. It's not good. After talking to her, she made me realize that it is the silicon chips, the IC integrated
Oh,
chips that she's
okay. Not
working
the
on,
potatoes.
not
Yeah.
not the banana chips or potato chips. That
Yeah.
was a real funny thing. Because security is a very, very common term, right? We refer to. So
Uh,
I wanted to know whether you had any experience like that.
No, I remember going back to my school. I went to a school called DAV in Chennai. And I
Mhm.
went to the school a few years after that, and I ran into my Tamil teacher, and he asked me, "So Karthikeyan, what are you doing?" I said, I'm doing security." And he goes like, "No, 2 வருஷத்துல நானும் retire ஆக போறேன். ஒரு security job இருந்தா சொல்லுங்க. I can come and sit outside and take a look at it, right?" And that's when I had a real dose of, okay, I'm here. I'm so happy that I'm doing cyber, and I'm like, trailblazing. But then you go back and you understand the realities, and okay, that's not the case, right? So sometimes those it's lighter moments. It's interesting. So I think today I'm sure every nook and corner people will probably teach cybersecurity, so many institutions and everything else, right? So
See,
Right.
there's a
And
third
we are,
perspective. There's a third perspective of security. I used to work for security brokerage company
yeah.
where we were asked to call the customers to, explain something that we are calling from, this company, securities and brokerage. And as soon as they hear the word security,
Yeah.
they go like, yeah, we don't want it. We don't want it.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
it's about your money. And then they say, oh, okay, yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, even in the real cyber also, right? Even corporate companies said it's like buying insurance, right? You're not helping
Mhm.
me build the product. You're not helping me sell the product. You're not helping me generate a revenue. You're not helping me service a customer. Why do I need it, right? I have had experiences with a very large oil company in the Northeast. The CIO called me up and says, "Hey, give me a C- solution. I don't need this stuff," right? We're talking about 96, 97, right?
Right, right.
And rest is history, right? 9/11 happens, Sarbanes-Oxley, PCI, HIPAA, high trust, nation states. We'll talk about a little bit in this episode. But a lot of what I would call it is unfortunate events in the world triggered to fortunate progress in cybersecurity, right? So it's
True,
kind of two parallel tracks going. So
true.
Yeah.
Because back then
Also,
there's no such thing as cybersecurity. I mean, we
Right.
don't hear that term much, right?
right. And now we are also falling victim. Even it can be as small as Facebook hacking,
Yeah.
our accounts get hacked, or it can be the scam emails that we receive, the phishing emails and such things. Like all of us would have at least received one, right,
Yeah.
in our lifetime. So we
I
have
mean,
so much.
and unfortunately the whole training is lagging the reality in the world, right? Like, everybody says don't click on links and emails. We'll touch on it again later, right? But the best way is I can walk into a restaurant, I can drop like 5 QR printed codes, drop it in the table. As I'm walking into the bar, I'll sit in the bar. You guys can go ahead and click on the link to pull up the menu, and there you go. That's a phishing link, right? Like, we tell people don't click on links, and then there you are, everybody's using QR code. And thanks to COVID, right, we don't want to have printed menus or printed anything. Everything is QR code. Paytm, right? I could easily put a Paytm in front of a coconut vendor in India, and I can put a phishing test, right, if I know who's walking there, right, which kid is walking from a celebrity's kid or whatever it is, right? There is so many different ways to be able to you know so I think paying attention, knowing about your whereabouts and your surroundings, I mean, that's all it takes. As much as it's murky and scary, it's also extremely easy to keep an eye, right? Just think twice. That's all it is, right? And
One
how,
of the favorite things that I noticed is, people, I mean, back in India or here, sometimes now it's available free everywhere, but free Wi-Fi, right? As soon as they see free Wi-Fi, they go and connect their mobile phones,
yeah,
just not to use the data back in few days ago, but still people do it. And
yep,
then, maybe you can touch base on these kind of threats,
absolutely.
how vulnerable once they connect their phones to their free
Right,
Wi-Fi, right?
right.
Please proceed.
That's true. Thank you, Anna. I mean, I would want to take a small break if you want to break, Anna. We
I'm
can
all
have
good. Yeah,
two, three
sure.
minutes.
I'll take a
Do you
break.
have any more announcements that you want to make, Muthu?
Sure, it's all about request for people to join in the Annamala University Alumni Associations as a member. Join at AUAA-USA .org. So let's because we are running a little late, so let's jump into the subject right
Sure,
away.
sure,
So let's move on.
sure.
Thank
I
you.
mean, before we go into this serious note about what is cybersecurity all about and what precautions that we need to take, what are the good and bad, right? What is this world evolving to? Because I heard Karthik speaking in Nasdaq last year, and he had an interesting prediction about 2024, and it's already happening. So over to you, Karthik, and I would want you to, I mean, if you have a slide deck, you can present, or
Yeah.
I mean, just brief us whatever on cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that. I think slides would help a lot, help a lot. So hopefully you guys can see me, right? And I will go as quick as I can. It's an interesting company, right? So so tech is rapidly changing and reshaping our world, right? So more and more technology, more and more software coming into the play. Either it doesn't matter, what you currently do, right? Any of these companies, if you're driving an electric car, an automated car, or you're using WhatsApp to make a phone call, to ChatGPT, AI, right? Netflix, video, any, Change Healthcare was the latest breach, larger breach in the United States about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. They're still reeling. Change Healthcare is part of United Healthcare and United Health Group, and $22 million ransom has been paid, but still not done yet, right? So anything and everything too. If either you're taking an Uber or anything you are doing, technology is rapidly reshaping, and that does mean that we need to worry and care about security, right? Let's look at it. Why do we care about why does it matter, right? So if you think of it, there's a lot of cyber warfare, a lot of espionage going on, ransomware, access, kidnap, hostage, and ransom. 86% of the companies have experienced an attack in 2023, right? 86%. Not all of them have been disclosing it, but that is the situation. The cost of data breaches is over $10 trillion. I can't even say that right by 2026, right? Exponential increase in weaknesses that we're noticing it, right? And the beauty of that is in the last 7 years, if you go back and look at any stats you want, in the last 7 years, number of weaknesses and vulnerabilities and exposures that we have quadrupled. Okay. At the same time, a typical exploitation takes within 5 days, right? When I know a weakness and I have a motivational attacker, it takes typically 5 days, right? In the last 5 years, it has gone down to 3 days, right? The time to exploitation is shrinking. The time, having the quantity of vulnerabilities and the attack surface is exponentially increasing, and cost of dealing with breaches is going up, and lack of resources to deal with it, right? These four, are what I would call as a perfect storm for the world in cyber, right? So, but before we get there, we as good guys, right, we have to get it right all the time. As a bad guy, they all have to get it right only once, right? That's the thing, right? You have to get it right every time. They have to get it right once. They got it right once, game over, right? So I think you need to think about it. In order for to do a good cybersecurity, you need to first of all understand what are you up against, right? So it's about saying that knowing your enemy is the best way for you to be able to devise a better, protection strategy, right? Typically, we would say it's four categories: nation states. These are political position people that they are tons and tons of money going on from sovereign states that they're going down to either do industrial espionage or disrupt the government, right? And we have seen this quite a bit. We have actually seen this in both India as well as in the US when certain neighboring states kind of doing that, right? The second thing is organized criminal groups. Think of it, right? So if you work in a company, think of it, who are you up against, right? If I work in a government agency, if I'm working in national infrastructure protection, I will think of nation states as my first thing that I need to be thinking about and be careful. If I'm working in a corporate environment, it's organized crime, criminal groups, right? Identity theft, credit card theft, ransomware, right? The ransomware average payment was $300, right? There are a lot of people would say, well, you should not pay any ransom, but because of the public embarrassment, right? What if you're a CEO of a company? $300 is not even 1 hour of time for you, right? So you would rather pay 300 and kind of save your face and move on, right? So that's actually happening. These are done by organized criminal groups. They fly under the radar. All they're looking is a couple of $100 and kind of move on, right? Third is activists. Very difficult to deal with. What are activists? Activists are seeking attention seekers, right? They are working for the human cause. Let's assume you're a company CEO, right? You're going to lay off 3,000 people. The activists come in and say, well, I'm going to hack into you. And the demands are when I have had friends who have advised to go back and ask for demands, right? When you go ahead and ask for demands, what are your demands? They will clearly tell you, rehire the 3,000 people you let go. I don't want money. I'm not in for anything else, right? I'm here for the human cause, right? So how do you deal with this thing, right? And I was telling one of my friends, wait, when another company lays off more people, they will go after them and you will be off. You can't do nothing about it unless you can go hire them back, right? So activists are working for a particular cause, right? So understanding if you're releasing a commercial, if you're a company and you're releasing a commercial that could trigger somebody, that could trigger a denominational group, right? Or you're talking about something that is controversial, right? Then be ready for it, right? So what I call in my company is let's go shields up, right? When somebody's going to make a comment or something about it, let's go shields up so that you're better ready and better protected, right? So these are very difficult. The last one is very interesting. These are individuals, these are juveniles, these are 17-year-olds, right? What are they trying to do? They think it is fun. Also, to be part of any of these groups or gangs, you want to prove your worth, right? In order for you to be able to prove your worth, right? You might say, I'm not a very large company. I don't work big time, but that's okay. But all these guys are looking for that they can go and attack somebody and breach somebody, right? So you are also a target in that situation, right? These are literally these kids, right? All they're trying to do is just have fun or prove them that they are capable, right? So, but you have to prove yourself to becoming a member of a particular gang, right? So what can you do, right? So what is your skill set, right? So that's what these guys are doing. So understanding your adversarial landscape, understanding the adversarial landscape that you're faced with as an individual, as a company, as an agency, government, right, is very, very important. It's the first step towards having a successful security program, right? Now, I think cybersecurity has evolved quite a bit. I think we talked about it 30 years ago, right? There were probably in the 90s, early 90s, probably 1,000 people would have claimed themselves as cybersecurity professionals. More people could have done it, but they didn't know they were doing security work, right? Maybe 25 to 50 security tools and products, tens of thousands of dollars spent by companies, lack of government capabilities, no regulations. There was zero regulations to cyber, at least in the United States. I think it's US, Europe, and Asia, all over the world. You can make that leap of faith statement, right? Hard to tell if you've been attacked, right? You don't have any data points. You don't have any visibility. There's no consequences of an attack. Nobody even knew what it meant, right? There was no cyber insurance or underwriting. There was zero certifications to understand whether Karthik is qualified to do this job or not. That was the situation in the early 90s. Where have we come? It's interesting, right? Today, there are 5.5 million security professionals in the world. That sounds like a staggering number, 1,000 to 5.5 million in 30-year time frame, right? But keep in mind, though, right, we still have about at least 1 million jobs, cybersecurity jobs in, I'd probably say US and Europe combined, that are unfilled and cannot be filled because we're lacking skilled talent in that space. We have 8,000 products and tools. So many startup companies, money have poured into it, from all the way from, Israel to India, right? So 8,000 tools from 50 tools. Hundreds of millions of dollars per companies are spending, right? Depending upon the company. If you're a Fortune 10, you're spending in hundreds of millions, right? Even if a smaller company, they're spending $1 million, right? Government with sophisticated cyber defense and offense capability. We have cyber offense capability that developed governments have kind of embraced it, right? Hundreds of regulations. Doesn't matter which industry you are in and which country you are in. You could be in India, there's a privacy regulation. You could be in Brazil, there could be a privacy regulation. You are in the US, there is HIPAA, HITRUST, PCI, you keep going on, and there is a lot of regulations, right? The interesting thing in 2023 is there's penalty in criminal prosecution. If you're a chief security officer, you could be criminally prosecuted by the SEC, right? Which we are already seeing it, right? SolarWinds is an example, a poster child example, a company in the US. Their chief security officer is going through a criminal prosecution right now for some breach that the company encountered, right? Whether that was his mistake or not, we don't know, right? So 8K, SEC in the US has declared that you have to file an 8K within 72 hours of determining materiality. People are struggling with it. They don't know how to determine materiality. In the last 2 weeks, there were so many 8K filings, right? As latest as this is American Express 3 days ago, right? Because of the third-party situation, right? Modern cyber insurance. There is underwriters and actuaries now able to underwrite cyber insurance for your, protection. And there are several certifications. If you don't have a certification and you're looking for a job in security, it becomes very difficult today. Back then, yeah, you can do security, come on over, right? But now, do you have CISSP or some sort of certifications, right? That's kind of the evolution. So what I want to do is I don't know in which discipline we have seen this amount of growth, and we're not there yet, right? This is just the beginning. Buckle up, and we're going to go to much more heights, right? So quite honestly, it is fascinating. Doesn't matter in which category are you in, right? As I said, yes, it's murky in one aspect, but it is a lot more opportunities. I mean, very lot more opportunities in another aspect, right? So which vantage point do you want to see from? But if you're looking for a career, or if you're looking to entrepreneurial aspects, I mean, this is fantastic, right? So with that, but that all said, I mean, this is your time, right? I mean, I think we need to definitely start to act, right? So protect yourself. The one thing that I always tell people is you cannot avoid being a target. You don't control whether you are a target. I can't control if I'm a target, right? Because that is controlled by my adversarial landscape and not me. When I say adversarial landscape, it is the bad elements, right? But I can control of not becoming a victim. I can take caution, right? It's the analogy is, right? I can't control if somebody's going to come after me if I am, driving, at 1 a.m. in Detroit downtown, right? But what I could avoid not becoming a victim, I should not be driving at 1 a.m. Maybe I should be driving at 10 p.m., right? So that's what I would say. We cannot avoid being a target, but we can very well avoid being a victim of a cyber. Okay. Career opportunities, numerous, as I said, 1 million jobs, and I'm happy to, my contacts with Muthu and Priya and as part of the AUAA, love to and happy to help if anybody is seeking, it doesn't have to be early stage, right? It's like, at midpoint career change or pivoting into it, right? Definitely, love to help coach, mentor, in whatever way, shape, form that I can contribute back, right? The last is entrepreneurial, right? So cybersecurity landscape up until probably about 2 years ago, I would say it's very heavy Israeli influence. You come out of the Israeli intelligence, you start a cybersecurity company. The 8,000 products and tools that I said, it's probably heavy Israeli influence, right? Now we're starting to see and starting to embrace Indian movement. A lot of Indian companies that is coming into the picture. They want to start services. They want to start products. And a classic example is the company that I work for. We are a very heavy focus. Our development is in India, compared to not in Tel Aviv. But it has been heavy Tel Aviv focus up until now, right? They tell that they live in an hostile environment. They know that it's very nature as they're born. They know how to deal with security, right? And that's probably there's some truth to it. No questions about it with all the recent situations that we're seeing.
Right.
But kind of sad. I think it's starting to move, right? I think people are liking the Indian embracement of the entrepreneurial front or products and tools. Um, I think we have a few minutes and I want to leave some time for Q&A as well. So things that you could do as an individual, right?
Mm.
Trust but verify,
Mm.
right? There is deep fakes. Within 90 seconds, I can mimic somebody's voice call and make a phone call like as if I'm your kid or I'm your parent making a
Mm.
phone call asking you to do something that is more reasonable, right? 90 seconds is what it takes today with generative AI on a deep fake, right? Trust but verify. Stop, think before clicking, right?
Mm.
Just don't open files, links, whatever it is, right? But the biggest thing is not about email. And as I said, it's QR codes, it's WhatsApp, it's text messages, right? We talked
Mm.
about phishing, which is similar to phishing, but do it over text, right? Do not never share your credentials, right? Your passwords, your IDs, your PAN details of, again, trust but verify. You probably have to share in certain cases, but verify. Use extremely stronger passwords. And I think the biggest problem is people reuse passwords. And in fact, I am part of it too, right? Because we don't want to remember like million passwords.
Correct.
We reuse it, right? But have some logic, right? Like,
Mm.
because reused password attacks are the number one that we have recently seen in terms of credential stealing and what's called credential stuffing, right? They steal your credentials, they stuff your credentials, and they replay it, and then they take it out and walk away, right? We have seen this in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, crypto wallets being stolen, which is very large. A lot of people are into Bitcoin. I'm sure people are trading Bitcoins and or any cryptocurrency for that matter. So be careful on that. Turn on security settings in all technologies, right? Yes, it may feel onerous, but the onerousness is okay to have safety in your place, right?
Mm.
Update software continuously. Do not store any identity information in non-secure places. No, don't put any personally identifiable information in social media, right? We get carried away. We think it's fun. We just put it out there. We show our preferences. We show our out of wallet. We call them out of wallet challenges, right? We show our things, right? What color do you like? Okay, I keep wearing everywhere blue shirt, so I'm like, I should be liking blue shirt. I keep bragging about Annamalai University. So where I went to school, out of wallet question, I'm probably talking about Annamalai University. Obviously, you need to have life. So take a balanced approach, right? I'm not saying don't do a lot of things. Do with moderation. Anything with moderation is good, right? We talk about when consuming certain things. So obviously, moderation is the message and the key word, right? I know that Muthu said about Wi-Fi, use of Wi-Fi.
Mm.
Yeah, I know this is an old adage, right? Don't use a public Wi-Fi. And the last but not the least, and this, if you don't remember any of the nine, forget it. That's okay. Just remember the last one. If you trip, seek help, right? So there is lots of ways to get help.
Okay.
So if everything fails and if you forgot something, it's okay. We all trip, right? So when we trip, let's not stuff it under the rug. Let's just get quick help, right? Either that is to law enforcement, either to your compliance organizations, or matter of fact, call a friend and ask for an advice, right? If that person can help you, right? Seek some professional help or knowledgeable help. I would put it that way, right? So you can be a disruptor. I don't want you to get disrupted, but I want you to disrupt if I can leave that with you, right? So I know that we went through pretty quick. Hopefully the content is helpful and useful. That any
You gave the entire perspective on what is the evolution, where can we be a victim, or what steps we need to take in order to be not falling into a trap. And even if we are stuck, good point you made in the last bit is to seek help and uh, don't get worried and gets feel that you're stuck. You got into this web, and cannot come out. There are a lot of
Right.
help. That's what you said.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Right. What I've noticed is in the ransomware gangs in the past, they take the ransom and they leave you alone, they unlock your files and they move on, right? We have started to see this behavior where they are not moving on, right? It's called three things, right? One is they will complain about exfilling. First is extortion, right? They want to extort money from you. A ransomware gang will say first is about extortion. Second
Okay.
is about exfil. Third is it moves on from extortion to exfil to going after your third parties, right? Like I'll leave you alone, but now I'll call your brother or your uncle and then say, well, I need money from you too, because I got your information. There's no guarantees. So unfortunately, the behaviors are changing. And that's because different countries are coming into this picture. We study a lot of human behaviors and cultures before we go after, right? Like, I had businesses, and when I was at TransUnion, we did a lot with South Africa, right? How do you deal with Mozambique versus Botswana? It's very cultural and it's very intriguing when you start to think about it, right? So, yeah, I think there's some questions coming up, right? So,
Yeah,
Yeah, there's quite a lot of questions coming up.
you did
Okay.
Very,
mention
very
about the do's and don'ts. The
true.
question
I
is
mean,
more.
very, very simple things, right? I mean, for example, people steal your Facebook picture or WhatsApp profile picture and then create from some other phone, put your phone, picture on it, and
Yeah.
reach out to the friends and say, "Hey, I'm here, give me money." And people are still sending money, right? There's some basic, aspect to it. Your friend is in trouble, try to call him in his regular number, and some, basic advice is there are some beyond cybersecurity, right?
Right.
And then comes
Right.
cybersecurity, as you said. You don't know when you will be a target. Try not to be the target, and then companies will try to protect you and
Yeah,
help.
I mean, I don't know whether this is I mean, this old adage, right? Like, so again, as I said, there's four things, right? Like, I know I'm echoing, but it matters, right? Like, if you're a large company and nation state is after you, it becomes difficult, right? But if somebody, the last category, they're gaming, they're trying to get a few dollars out of you, then, as long as they're going after who is vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So if your door is locked and your neighbor's door is unlocked, they're going to go after that. They're not going to come after you. I'm not suggesting that that's the best trick, right? I mean, I'm big on analogies, right? Like you don't have to be the fastest runner when the bear is chasing you. As long as you're not the last one running, you're in a better spot, right? So first steps first, right? So we kind of move down that path. So any questions?
Sure. One of them, let's take the first one where you say, can you list the do's and don'ts for laymen to do who use smartphones and computers?
Yeah, I think I listed a few things over there,
Correct.
right? Like, for example, passwords, updating your software. If you're using a smartphone, I mean, definitely update all your software, right? Don't try to leave the phone unattended. There is a lot of, people, put stuff in it. So don't leave it unattended. Make sure you update all your software. Don't store it in a notepad, all your credentials, like, passwords and IDs inside a phone, right? Same thing with computer, right? Like, if somebody's saying that I can help you, I can prevent you, don't do that, right? Like you've been getting a lot of, PayPal emails and other things. I don't click on anything. Even if my own kids sends me, I would first call and ask and verify, right? The deep fake that I talked about, we are not there yet. It's not as sophisticated. I mean, unless you're extremely targeted, you're not going to get that. But so I would at least make a phone call and ask for that, right? If you're not expecting some things, don't do it, right?
Right.
If you're expecting something, if you're expecting somebody to be in, I don't know, in Sao Paulo and they're calling you to ask for money, and if you expect them to be in Sao Paulo, then take the call a little seriously. Otherwise, ignore it, right? So that's what I would do. So,
True. And then
So
and then one
when
thing is locking the computer itself. A lot of people leave it
yeah,
open. They don't do the simple thing of Control Alt Del or just a swipe
right,
on Max.
right,
Lock it when you're away from it, even if it's for 2 minutes walk, right?
correct,
Lock.
correct,
So that's one thing. And
correct.
then let's move on to another question somebody has. Healthcare has been the target of latest cyber attacks.
Yep.
What data points in healthcare is most vulnerable?
So I think healthcare is health. I'm not a predictor, and I could be 100% wrong. We're 2 months into 2024. I was an FSI SAC, which is a financial services industry sharing thing, earlier this week in San Diego, and we had a lot of good conferences. Right, I think that a lot of consensus was that healthcare is going to be a large. Healthcare will see a lot of incidents in 2024. Quite honestly, at least for US. Um, what are the most vulnerable data points in healthcare? Right, we have archaic. I mean, I think if you talk about data. I think it's personally identifiable information and any treatment type information. Right? That's the data. Right? If you're a healthcare company and you're an executive in a healthcare company or are working in a healthcare company, unfortunately, the healthcare companies have very archaic identity and access management capabilities. Right. Right. So identity access management, credentials management, privilege management, all of that are areas that are weaker on the healthcare, and they're all a lot of companies are actually working on. That is exactly, and the proof is in the pudding, right? We just recently saw Change Healthcare, and everybody's working on it. So if you're an individual, don't share your personal information with, but share limited amount of personal information. If you're a company, then you should focus on identity and access management. Again, I would put the disclaimer. I'm giving this a generic answer. I haven't seen your situation, so don't take my word for it. But that's where I would, lean towards, right? So.
Sure.
There
And
is a
then,
question on
yeah,
XSS, which is cross-site scripting. I'm just going to answer it as cross-site scripting for a third year E&E girl,
Yeah.
Daisy. So it is cross scripting. So that's a straight answer. So I just gave that. Anna.
Yep.
Um, there are a lot of questions on what to study, what are the certifications that are preferred, and what are the different
Yeah.
courses to take.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can
So
you?
there's an organization called ISC Square, isc2.org. And they used to have only one certificate called CISSP, but now they have a lot, right? To get to CISSPs, they have certain conditions, right? You need to have worked for 5 years, 7 years, whatever that is, right? But go into me giving you the answer, I think you'll get the latest. There are a lot. There is CISA, CISA certification if you want to be an auditor and compliance type stuff. If you want to be a security professional, you can do CISSP oriented stuff, right? Go into isc2.org and look through it, what fits you. And you have my email address. Just drop me a note and I can try to be, it's not one size fits all, right? So there is, look for it, right? So again, you got to pick your play, right? I mean, there are 12 domains or 14 domains in security, depending upon who you ask. Do you want to be technical? Do you want to be auditing, and do you want to be compliance? Where is your mindset and how do you want to go? And that's how I would look at it. So just go to that website if you don't mind. So
So there are typical questions similar to that, like I'm a DevSecOps architect. What should I do? What is the entrepreneurial route for me?
yeah, so DevSecOps is happening in 2024. What we're talking about, AI helping with DevSecOps, which is called coding assistance. If you want to, search for coding assistance. So if you want to have a career or if you want to be entrepreneurial, look it up and see how do you do guided remediation and auto remediation in that space. How you integrate various tools. I don't know what tools do you use. Sneak is a big company in the US, but actually it's interesting that the company that I work for is we're taking a layer up where we're talking about aggregation of these capabilities, um, and trying to take from findings and vulnerabilities, moving on to risk, right? So I mean, if you notice, in my LinkedIn posts and things like that, I talk a lot about risk versus findings because there's millions of findings. Does not mean all of those are riskier, right? So yeah, so look at
Okay.
that's what I would do DevSecOps wise, yeah.
one other specific question somebody asked about,
Yeah.
these days, everything becoming automation in within house itself,
Yeah.
where automated house, and how can we secure our home from cyber attacks and cyberpunks?
um people tell me that, why are you, sometimes they tell me that, you're encouraging all this stuff. You're a security guy. So traditional security guy. When I said one thing I didn't miss out on my 30-year-old slide is 30 years ago, a security guy is supposed to not even listen to what you're asking and should say, no, don't do it. Okay. Now we're saying, what do you mean? Why do you need to do it? Right. So we have moved from Dr. No to Dr. Almost Yes. So I would not say don't do it, but I think you should do automation. I do automation at my own home for certain things, but it matters on how much, what level of automation do you want to do, right? So I would say buy secure, safe products from reliable sources. Just because it's $2 cheaper on an online site, I would not go for it. Don't put your family at risk, right? So spend the dollars where you need to spend, and so buy reliable products. Reliable companies take good care of those things, and then keep your software updated. Don't share again your credentials and configurations outside. Don't leave it to default implementations. So it's just basic hygiene, right? It's I would call it a typical hygiene, right? The only thing I would want is, buy cheaper products. I'm not saying you should not, right? But be careful on that, right? Because there's so many backdoors been put in from certain products coming in from certain regions. And we have seen that, right? Even US government said you cannot use Huawei, for example, in the US for networking gear, right? So when we're talking about all those things, there is a lot of backdoors. So if you might say it's free Wi-Fi, similar context, right? Like you said, Muthu, right? So it's just because $2 cheap, it's not cheap. You're paying somewhere else, right? So
Mm.
that doesn't mean you need to pay over. I'm not suggesting you should pay over, but be conscious and cognizant about what you're trying to buy and do. But go do
Mhm.
automate. It's okay.
True.
Nothing
There's
is
one
free in this
interesting,
world. Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, over to you. Anna. Mm.
good. One interesting question.
Yeah.
They ask what important or the most important qualities for someone to have in a cybersecurity role and to become CISO officer just like you.
um I don't know. I mean, a role. Okay. One, you need to be at the right place at the right time for sure.
Right.
I don't know if that actually helps, right? But I think the quality I would say is, I mean, you have to have it's cake and having icing on the cake, right? The cake is your technical skills, the cake is your competency skills, the cake is all of that attributes, right? The icing on the cake is a mindset, right? Okay, do you have that mindset to think out of the box, think differently, meaning can I break this? I don't have to go break. I know there's a question that I saw, what is the difference between black hat, white hat, and gray hat?
Mm.
White hat is somebody who is authorized to do the attacks and in the spirit of testing and making it a failure. A black hat is somebody trying to do real harm. A gray hat sometimes flips between the good side and the bad side, depending upon what the day of the day that he wants to operate on.
Right.
So that's what the gray hat guys would say. Well, I'm doing it for the right reasons. That's not the right reason. So just because somebody got laid off and you're trying to make a point, and that the third category I talked about, activists, sometimes they fall into that category. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're not doing the right thing, right? That's the crude way of saying gray hat. I'm sure you can go and Google and you'll get a better definition than I said. That's a crude way of putting it in the two sentences, right? So the bottom line is, I think it's a mindset, right? Have a mindset to say, well, can I think of what could go wrong, can go wrong, and if it were to go wrong, what am I going to do about it, right? Like, so if you go do that, yeah, I think it's a mindset would be a good thing, right? Communication skills is extremely important if you want to breach the line and move to the CISO suite. You better have that executive communications and presence skills, because the board of directors and everybody else, they're inviting you to the table. Now they're expecting you to carry the conversation. They got you a seat in the table, but whether you're going to keep the seat in the table or you're going to be asked to leave based on can you keep up with them, right? So it's about it's mindset and communication is two soft skills I would probably advocate for.
Very true. So I mean, in cybersecurity, there's people with the cake is the technology, your knowledge and how do you learn. And then on top of it, there are different ways. You can be an officer, you can be still a contributor there, but
Oh,
there could be
absolutely.
even, yeah.
I mean, it again depends on fun, right? I mean, I have friends who have, done the, overall management. Some people have still engineers and they enjoy life and then they
Yeah.
do that, right?
Yep.
So it's about people shouldn't be chasing certain things, and people should embrace what they like and they continue to do that, right? I mean, maybe that's very philosophical, but that would be my suggestion, right?
True. And
We are
then,
slightly over time, but there are more questions. So over
yeah,
to you.
let's keep going for another 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
There's some more questions. So one of them is, what emerging technologies do you believe will have the biggest impact on cybersecurity in the next 5 years?
I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. 5 years is eternity in the world of cyber. I would probably say 24 to 36 months. But I do understand, right? If you're a first year college student, why do you want to learn something that's going to be obsolete in 2 years, right? So I again, I would suggest, I think what I have noticed is the core disciplines have not changed, right? We used to talk about identity management and access management, right? We used to talk about credentials. We're still talking about credentials, right? We're not talking about passwords. We're talking about passphrases. We're talking about, facial recognition, biometrics, and a bunch of different stuff, right? So the implementation and has changed and evolved, but the core competency has not evolved. So I think infrastructure is going to be big. I think having Intel software, everything changing to software from a security perspective is going to be huge. I think generative AI coming and helping you those pieces is going to be again huge, right? I talked about 8,000 products and tools. Believe it or not, in the next 2 years, they will shrink. There's a lot of consolidation happening. It will consolidate, right? It's so I think I think it's in the space of software security. It's in the space of identity and access management. Audit and compliance, it's going to be huge. More and more and more regulations going to come on across the globe, right? So that's how I would put it in cyber. So
Yeah. Now that you touched about the identity, one question was what steps can you take to prevent identity theft?
yeah. So I think back to the basics. I think it's not easy. And when you lose an identity, it is a nightmare, right? If somebody got hold of your driver's license and they got some, selective information, it is going to be tough, right? So I think what you need to do is you need to be careful in how many places you're willing to share your personally identifiable information and in what platform are you sharing those personally identifiable information, right? I think everybody should also, there are companies, there's a lot of states have passed laws about do not remember me or delete my information laws. California has kind of led that back. And I think globally, even in India, I think they're starting to do that with the privacy organizations. So I think if when and where an opportunity arises, you should ask, to be forgotten, right? So having your digital footprint as minimal as possible. Again, as I said, you don't want to be, I use WhatsApp, I use Facebook, I am unconnected. So I'm not going, so not to an extent where we're going into the woods, right? So, just, you have to decide, how you can minimize your exposed personally identifiable information can be, right? So that's all. I mean, I know it's a generic response, but that's the basic that you need to think about it, right?
Excellent. One other question where what are some of the best sources of cybersecurity skills to hire from?
What are the best sources for cybersecurity
So I
skills?
mean, I believe that if you are in a position to hire cybersecurity professionals,
Yep.
where do you get from is probably the question.
Yeah, so it actually depends. I mean, if you're asking me this question from India, there's a lot of college hiring happening in India right now.
Right.
So internships, co-ops, and then moving on to it. If you're asking this question from the US, I think there's still college hiring going on, but you better have an internship in place, right? I mean, if you didn't intern in a cybersecurity organization, it's easy to get an internship in a cybersecurity organization because we're just waking up, right,
Right.
into this business. So if you want, you should apply for an internship in a cybersecurity organization. You'll be surprised so many organizations are willing to take that. And if you have one or two internships, it's easier, right? So the college hires is one of them. The second area is people pivoting, right? I mean, if you think of security, it's about, I mean, if you know software or if you know hardware, if you know infrastructure, if you know data, you can layer on top of it with security skills, right? But you need to be willing. I mean, if you're a mid, let's say you need to be willing to take a step down to step back up, right? Because that's the fundamental challenge that I've seen. And when I mentor and coach people, they would say, well, I've had 10 years of experience and I want to be a lateral movement into security, right? But unfortunately, you need to go into a 7-year experience job and then you come back at it. But you will earn the 3-year back within a year, right? So it's an acceleration, right? But that's an investment that you need to consciously do, right? Because that is also, so pivoting skills is also good things in cyber. People like pivoting skills because you're bringing a completely different perspective, and you're not just living and breathing security, right? But then you need to be able to do that trade. So it's about it's internships, it's co-ops, it's from college, um, it's industry experience in another domain. So
True. I mean, especially for, when you talked about college, uh, people getting hired or going for internship,
yeah,
one thing that I felt when I went to visited the university last year, people are coming down like seniors. Some of us go back who have companies gone back there and offered them either jobs or internships. And I have seen or heard from the students directly that they don't want to go for it because the pay is less or the city is hot, all kind of information that they say. But that's probably the new trend for this younger generation, which I would say personally, go for it. Doesn't matter what you earn now. What matters is what you learn now, right?
Correct. Correct.
yeah, absolutely. You have to invest your time, right? It's about, are you willing to invest? And people do master's degree. You're losing 2 years of not making money. People do PhDs. You're losing 5 years of not making money.
Mm.
But then it is an investment, right? It's a conscious investment. It's going to be, at the end of the day, everybody's going to meet at the same, I would say, same bar,
Yeah.
and you will earn your right to go to the same bar. What route that you take, could be different, right? I might take, K Street to 14th Street, or I might take Broadway and Fifth Avenue all the way to all the way Broadway down to something else. I mean, down to 27th Street, right? So it's what route you take does, I mean, it matters, but in grand scheme of things, I think you will meet at the same place at this, at the very end if you.
And you also mentioned in between that it matters with respect to the mindset, what you want to do. Look for what you want to do, what your heart says. Go with it. And until 30, you can invest, as Mutwana said, invest and learning. Until
Yeah.
30, you still have age. You don't need to earn then.
True.
Until and otherwise, it is absolutely necessary. One another topic I definitely wanted to touch upon, since I'm a woman, wanted to know more about women in cybersecurity and what is the role that women can play. Because just yesterday, Women's Day went, and I have to cover that part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can speak from the US context. I don't have a whole lot of experience in that domain, across the globe. Women in cyber is huge, right? There's an organization, and I have good friends who have been chief security officers. Some of, one or two have retired, one or two are still going on, right? So if you're women in cyber and you want to know, I'm happy to see if they would take you as a mentor. More than me, I think they are in a better spot to answer those questions. Women in cyber is huge. I think we always have that conversation to say how can we empower and enable them, right? And um, again, I think the skill set is very important, right? So have that skill set, but take that leap, right? I mean, take that leap. So I think the opportunity is huge, right? I think at
Mm.
least in the US, we talk about having diversity in the workforce, and women in cyber, and women in color, women of color in cyber is even more better, right? And again, in everything, I have a lot of respect for women, because a lot of the most of the women that I've come across have a lot of skills, a lot of talent. They juggle a lot of things, so I think it's good. Speak up, right? I mean, and just say how much things that a woman juggles, right? So I think it's a great opportunity, and I think I honestly would think that they would have a little leg up compared to the other organizations. I mean, other people as well. So
True.
Great,
Happy
thank you.
Women's International Women's Day. But, as you said, Priya, if you look for women's information security groups, there are organizations that empower and educate, especially, women in color. So they have specific groups targeted to conduct, monthly meetings and things like that to educate people. And there are scholarships for anybody who couldn't afford to read as well. So,
yeah,
That's good to know because I saw many students from Annamalai who are
all right.
girls. Like I see Daisy, Christiana, there are many names. So I wanted to definitely,
yeah,
get the
absolutely.
answer.
There's quite a few anomalies as such or in the cybersecurity space
Mhm.
that I know of as well. So maybe we can form a consortium and give them a good opportunity or platform to train them, whoever is
Absolutely.
willing, learn, and then go into the field, right?
That's great. Good to know. There are a few
Okay,
more
so
questions, but
we'll
I'll,
take two more questions.
yes, just last
Sure,
two
go for it.
questions.
Go for it.
Role of AI and ML playing in improving cybersecurity, and what are the potential risks associated with it as well?
Yeah, so I think it's just everybody's exploring right now. So the real answer is if every security company is saying they are an AI, but I question that honestly. Everybody's on the exploration state, right? Experimentation, exploration. Security Operations Center, playbook automation, incident response, threat analytics are some of the domains that I think AI will have a leg up compared to the other domains, right? We talked about DevSecOps question was there. There's a thing called coding assistance, which is, there was 5% adoption with coding assistance, which is AI based. In 2023, we are thinking it could be more closer to 20-25%, right? So DevSecOps could be an area, security operations center, incident response, threat analytics, or some of the areas. AI and ML could play a good role in it, right? So was your second question or
Yeah, there's one question. I'll combine two of
risk,
them.
risks and
One is
adoption?
about organizations. I mean, is government taking enough measures to protect security? And also, Indian states are setting up dedicated cybercrime cells.
Yeah.
Are there such move in other parts of the world? So there's two
Yeah.
parts of the questions.
So Muthu, before I lose track, I will answer the previous question. I missed the second part, right? Like, risks of AI, I mean, risks of AI in general, right? I mean, I would call out saying, bias is a big problem and we're dealing with it, right? And I mean, and then we have obviously poisoning, which comes into data poisoning and, how do you train your, language machines and so on and so forth, right? Models, how you train your models. The last bit is prompt engineering, right? There's a lot of malicious prompting going on, right? So that's what if I have a team that does a lot of R&D work, and then where we're thinking about is how do we secure prompt engineering, malicious prompt engineering, right? It's funny, right? I mean, I just saw a photo that's been passed around saying that, how is Mother Teresa fighting AI in Africa? And if you guys haven't seen the picture, that is hilarious, right? So prompt engineering is a big in AI, right? Forget about security, right? So for us to be able to say how people won't maliciously prompt that machine, right? So that is going to be huge. So I'll go back and answer. So that's on the previous question. The government agencies, right? Look, I think every government is setting up various cells, right? Either it is intelligence agencies, either it is a police force, either it is a law enforcement, and so on and so forth. The thing to think about is they are being overwhelmed, right? So, hey, so if it is, unless it is really a major situation, unfortunately, they're not able to handle a lot, right? But you should reach out to them. There is a lot of help from a government sector, cybercrime cells, either even from Tamil Nadu to all over India to US, everywhere, right? There's a mechanism for you to be able to report, a mechanism to seek for help. If you're a small business, there is even an FBI field office that will help you in India, in the US. Law enforcement if you're an individual, right? Police environment for individuals, and there are a lot of threat intel agencies that will also help you, right? So there's a lot of help out there, but be patient, right? Because it's like an emergency room, right? If you're in an ER, if somebody's walking in with like a broken leg, they're going to tend to them versus having, if you have a cough, right? I mean, they'll triage first, right? The triaging is very important in this kind of situation. So they'll triage every situation. Once they triage it, they will say, okay, this can wait and that cannot wait, and they will go down that path. That doesn't mean they're ignoring it, right? So I have a lot of, respect for first responders, and this definitely falls into that same category. They triage and tend to things that matters first.
Right. Excellent.
It's awesome.
We are way over time, but thank you so much, Karthik. This is amazing. A lot of security information towards the end, and I'm sure there's much more questions people have. But due to the time restrictions that we will avoid, and then anyway, you have Karthik's email or even our association email, you can send it, which is admin at AUAA-USA.org. You can definitely send all this information. I mean, questions if you have, Karthik would be happy to answer in his free time. So,
Uh,
yeah, amazing interview.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. And I mean, all of the data that you heard from me are on my personal opinion. I wouldn't attribute this to anything and anything else. There could be some, discrepancies and deltas. We try to pack as much as we can in the time that we have and the type of topics that we need to cover. So I want to definitely take this opportunity to thank you all, and giving me the opportunity to share this thing. It's on my heart. AU is in my heart, Anomaly University is in my heart. So, and wish every one of you all the best in every pursuit and endeavors that you have. So.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Anna. It was a privilege for me, and it was an eye opener for me. And thank you so much for this session to both AUA and to Karthik, Anna. You have opened up a lot of eyes to us, and your disclaimer at the end reminds me that you are the security guy, the right guy. and
Yes,
and the
yes,
starting echo we had in the session echoes our Annamalai University, Anna. We
yeah.
echo every time, right? Annamalai University echoes.
That's true.
So
And
is
then, with the closing note, again, I would like all of you, whoever is listening, just let your batchmates and classmates know that, we formed this association just to have fun and educate people. So definitely do go to AUAA-USA.org, become a life member just for $100. Right, that's a life membership. So that way we have LinkedIn page, we have Facebook pages, we can connect and communicate on. Lot of great people have ideas into specific area wise. How do we even create groups, interest groups, right? For example, some of us like Karthi, being in top positions versus students trying to get into that area. So we could have groups, discussions, advices from great people. So let everybody know. Please do join us. And then we will do this monthly event going forward. Definitely great speakers to come as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good. Streaming ended.